The line at the security checkpoint was crawling forward, each beep of the scanner echoing through the sterile hall like a metronome. People shuffled nervously, clutching their passes, trying not to draw attention. When it was finally my turn, the guard took my ID with a lazy flick of his hand. His eyes swept over it, then over me, and a smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. He leaned back in his chair as if he already knew exactly who I was, and dismissed me all the same. The scanner hummed as he slid my ID through. For a moment, nothing happened. The guard chuckled under his breath, shaking his head. To him, I was just another face in the endless line. Someone out of place in a building where only the powerful and the important belonged. He sneered openly now, his tone dripping with condescension as he started to say something about restricted access. But then the screen blinked. A single word appeared, bold and unmistakable. Level 7 clearance. The guard's smirk vanished instantly. His eyes widened, and he straightened in his chair as though gravity itself had shifted. People around me noticed too. Whispers stirred, a ripple of curiosity moving through the waiting line. What did Level 7 even mean? Most had never heard of it. The guard's hand hovered over the scanner as though unsure whether to hand back my ID or call someone higher up. His expression was caught between confusion and fear. A bead of sweat formed on his brow, and suddenly the power dynamic between us had flipped. The silence stretched long, thick with questions no one dared to ask out loud. I didn't say a word. I just held his gaze, waiting as the glow of the clearance level lit the screen between us. And then, just before he spoke, an alarm sounded in the distance. Sharp and urgent, cutting through the tension like a blade. What happened next? Well, that's where everything began to change. The alarm pulsed through the walls, steady and unrelenting like a heartbeat that belonged to the building itself. Red lights flickered along the ceiling, casting uneasy shadows across the room. People froze in line, clutching their IDs tighter, glancing at one another with wide, uncertain eyes. No one spoke, but everyone seemed to feel the same thing. Something was about to happen. And none of them wanted to be caught in it. The guard who had sneered at me seconds ago now looked trapped between duty and fear. He shifted in his chair, his hand still gripping my ID, his jaw tight. For a moment, I thought he might demand an explanation, but instead he leaned closer, lowering his voice to a near whisper. Level 7. That's not possible, he muttered, almost to himself. His words weren't meant for me, but I caught them anyway. I didn't respond. Instead, I studied him, memorizing the cracks in his confidence. The uniform, the badge, the polished surface of authority, all of it was slipping. And yet, there was something deeper in his eyes, something he wasn't saying. Maybe he knew what Level 7 meant. Maybe he knew more than he wanted anyone else to realize, behind us. The alarm grew louder, and the sound of hurried footsteps echoed down the corridor. More guards were approaching, their radios crackling with static-filled instructions. The energy in the air shifted. This wasn't routine anymore. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than a simple ID scan. I glanced back at the people in line. They tried to look away, but curiosity betrayed them. They wanted answers. So did I, because truthfully, I hadn't expected this either. Level 7 clearance wasn't just rare, it was almost unheard of. And if the system recognized me as someone who carried it, then my past, the one I had carefully buried, was about to resurface in ways I wasn't ready to face. The guards arrived in a rush, their boots striking the floor in unison. They formed a tight circle around the checkpoint, their hands close to their weapons, but not drawn. The lead officer, a tall man with sharp eyes, stepped forward and studied the glowing screen. His expression tightened. He didn't question the machine. No one ever questioned the system, but he looked at me as if I carried something dangerous. Something no one else in the room could see. The original guard quickly handed back my ID. His earlier arrogance now completely gone. He avoided eye contact, his fingers trembling as he passed it to me. The others, though, weren't so quick to dismiss me. They whispered to each other in clipped phrases. Code words I didn't fully catch. But I heard one thing clearly. Containment. That word lingered in the air. Heavier than the alarm, I thought about walking away, pretending I belonged, but deep down, I knew that wouldn't work. Level 7 clearance wasn't a free pass. It was a signal. It meant something hidden, something classified, and whatever it tied me to, these guards were trained to respond with suspicion first. Meanwhile, the people still waiting in line were getting restless. Some shifted nervously, trying to see what was happening, while others tried to slip out of sight, afraid that just being near me might draw attention to them. Their fear only fed the tension, turning the room into a coil wound too tightly. And then another figure appeared, not in uniform, not carrying a weapon, but somehow commanding more authority than all of them combined. She wore a dark coat, her badge tucked away instead of displayed, and her gaze locked on me the second she entered. The guards fell silent at once. She didn't speak right away. She only studied me, as if weighing a memory against the person standing in front of her. And in that long, quiet stare, I realized the conflict wasn't just about clearance or protocol. This was personal. The woman in the dark coat stepped closer, her shoes clicking softly against the polished floor. The alarms were still blaring, but somehow her presence cut through the noise. She didn't need to raise her voice. She didn't need to flash her badge. The guards shifted uneasily, glancing at one another, waiting for her lead. Her eyes stayed locked on mine, sharp and steady. "You shouldn't be here," she said finally, each word deliberate, measured. The line of waiting passengers stiffened, every ear straining to catch her tone. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even disbelief. It was something colder, recognition. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could, the hall lights dimmed. The red emergency strobes pulsed faster now, bathing everything in a rhythm that set hearts racing. A low rumble rolled through the floor, so faint most people would dismiss it as nothing. But I knew better. The building was shifting into lockdown. The guards spread out, forming tighter ranks, their radios buzzing with updates no one else could understand. The words level 7 inches repeated again and again, carried across the static like a warning. It wasn't just this room that knew anymore. The whole facility was aware. The woman's gaze didn't break. She leaned closer, lowering her voice so only I could hear. "They'll want answers you don't have." But I do. There was no reassurance in her tone, no promise of safety, only the weight of inevitability. Behind us, the line of people was being escorted away, hurried out through side doors. Whispers filled the air as they stole one last look at me. Some with pity, others with fear. And then, just like that, I was alone in the checkpoint, surrounded not by strangers anymore, but by eyes trained only on me. The silence that followed was suffocating. Everyone waited for the next move. And in that pause, as the alarms bled into the background, I realized this moment was no longer about my ID or the clearance flashing on a screen. It was about what I had been running from all along, and who had finally caught up to me. The silence didn't last long. A sudden crackle came from the intercom above, louder than the alarms, urgent enough to make every guard look up at once. A voice, distorted by static, delivered a command none of them expected. "Do not detain. Repeat, do not detain." Priority transfer initiated. The guards froze. Their training had taught them to follow orders without hesitation, but this one cut against everything their instincts told them. I could see it in their posture, the doubt, the unease. To let me go was dangerous. To hold me could be worse. The woman in the dark coat didn't flinch. If anything, her expression hardened, as though she had been waiting for this exact order. But instead of relaxing, she stepped closer, lowering her voice again so only I could hear. "They're moving you," she said, "but not for your protection, for theirs." Before I could respond, the rumble beneath our feet returned, stronger this time, shaking the walls. Panels along the hallway ceiling slid open, revealing cameras that rotated sharply, locking onto me. I wasn't just a person with level 7 clearance anymore. I was being monitored. Tracked like a target. One of the younger guards broke ranks, whispering harshly to the officer beside him. "This doesn't make sense. Transfer to where? And why now?" His words weren't meant for me, but I heard every syllable. None of them had the answers, and that only fueled the tension. The woman's eyes flicked upward, catching the cameras, then back to me. For the first time, there was a flicker of something in her expression. Not fear, but urgency. "You have less time than you think," she said, and then the intercom flared again. Louder, more direct, subject confirmed. Extraction team inbound. The guards stiffened. The alarms screamed. And in that moment, I understood whatever level 7 truly meant. I wasn't just cleared. I was claimed. The checkpoint doors burst open before anyone could react. A team in black tactical gear stormed in, moving with perfect coordination. Their faces were hidden behind mirrored visors, their weapons raised but not firing. They didn't waste time on the guards or the woman in the coat. Every movement was aimed at me. For a moment, I thought,